Great. So now let's move to the reports from the 3 zone committees. And again, I'm very aware that people have been waiting for some time. Thank you very much indeed for your patience. As soon as we've got through these reports, we will then break for lunch and we'll come back at 2 o'clock. Sarah.
Did we start at 9:30 and do we need to move?
We've done it. We did it. Yeah, we did it at 26 minutes past 12. Obviously, it just slipped into the format of the meeting so seamlessly. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we wouldn't normally plan to do that, but it's just a couple of items have taken longer than we expected this morning, and I'm very aware that we've got people who've been waiting for some time. So we have this is. Okay, so what we've got is item 17, page 167, the Zone Committee quarterly reports. So who have we got here and how do you want to run this?
Well, I'm going to start off first.
So you're speaking, Pam, as Deputy Chair of the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee?
That's right.
Yep. Great, thank you.
I don't know that we can actually do justice to Zone Committee work in a few minutes talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think the background to this is we need to take the reports as read.
Yes.
And this provides you with, 10 minutes essentially to highlight any things that you particularly want to bring to the attention of councillors and to leave time for questions if you wish.
I understand that, Andrew, but I don't think that we have got that what the work of the zone committees does across to the councillors. We need to have opportunities where we can actually sit down and relate to things. What is going on? I feel as though that we need to be a bit more closer and talking to what's going on. I'm aware I am a community board member and a zone committee member, and it has been very beneficial to be both of those, and that there's a good flow of information between both. So if we think about our Banks Peninsula Water Zone, we also have got another catchment plan in Little River. We also have a catchment plan there with a huge amount of science behind it. So the things that are brought up in our Banks Peninsula Water Zone report are this morning are we've already addressed it this morning with Whakaraupo, of which we need to get in behind that and make sure that that works and that we have our community with us. And a focus of our Banks Peninsula community zone committees are that we do work with our communities. The one that's a bit more, that it says it's a bit less visible issue, is currently the interest of septic tanks and issues around septic tanks. If we had good functioning septic tanks across the peninsula, perhaps we might need the big sewage systems that we're going to need to be working towards in some of the areas. So it's an area where where we would ask for some further work to be done on, and that we did have put a question to the council around some proposed actions for Banks Peninsula. So that has previously come to the table. And it did come to when we put our ECANs and City Council submissions to the long-term plan, so I hope that'll be picked up. So I really haven't got much more than that. We've got 3 new members to our zone committee, so we're really just starting to get into gear again. We've had a considerable change of members of the committee, and we're now moving on to the next phase of briefing them and getting into gear and prioritising what we can do. As you know from Whakaraupo, Little River's also got a catchment plan as well, that we have huge amount of work to do with our communities, and we need to find ways of where we're working with a community where we can actually move across the Whakaraupo plan, or might be the Little River plan, or whatever it might be, to make sure that that community feels comfortable and about changing their attitudes to things and getting on with life. So I won't say any more than that, Andrew. It is very difficult to fit everything into this very short time slot. And if you're at all interested in it, do come to our zone meetings and catch up with us on what's going on. So we welcome any of you to come and join us at a zone meeting.
Indeed. Thank you, Pam. Are there any questions for Pam on the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee report? Dion? No? Phil?
Thanks, Pam. You're concerned about the septic tanks.
Yes.
Can you just tell us a wee bit more about that? Is it does there need to be more monitoring of them, Can you perhaps elaborate on that?
Well, we last year asked, and the Zone Committee have asked, that we undertake a pilot program with the local community group to identify actual risks from the existing systems, to look at whether there are any impacts on the environment that are being caused on the environment. To look at engaging in a research project to identify the effects of on-site systems on the land. And this has nationwide benefit, so it's just something that's starting off, and perhaps it may be that we need to look for partnership funding to look at this moving forward. So I've just sent it to a scientist, a wastewater scientist that we've got in Pigeon Bay, just starting a process to look where we might get help. It's also find out how our local systems are working. A lot of them, well, City Council is responsible for the old septic tank. Environment Canterbury is responsible for the drainage that comes out the end. So a lot of them are old systems, so they won't be consented systems. They're just existing. They've been there for years, and they just continue. Some of them are functioning, and some of them won't. We're looking at an education project with local schools to get into back home to families. Start with the kids, and the kids will take it home. And then we're looking for some information about what sort of systems are appropriate for Banks Peninsula. The City Council will be aware of systems, but we're not quite sure as a community whether they're appropriate for Banks Peninsula. So there's a whole lot of work that needs to be done around it.
Thank you. Okay, so let's now move to...
Sorry, Andrew.
Oh, Anne, sorry. Didn't see you there.
A quick question of Pam. I totally agree with you in terms of the importance of this information and this work that's done. And it seems a shame to have time constraints. Have you thought of any other opportunities where the zone committees could report to us? I'm thinking of the water forums perhaps, or something like that. Are there any other ways that we could get this information where we could have a really good chat and discussion?
Well, perhaps that's something we need to work that through, of how we might improve that relationship. I know the board, where the board chairs have had a meeting where we were looking at a better working relationship with our boards, but there's a lot of sharing of information, and there's a lot of things that City Council Environment Canterbury doing that we all need to know about, and perhaps we do need to have a
we put
jam
this on
session.
a Tuesday informal to discuss as councillors, perhaps find out a way that would suit.
Yep, I mean, the last time we discussed this, the result was having the zone committees brief the council, but as Pam has pointed out, you know, a 10-minute briefing doesn't allow for a lot of in-depth discussion. Yeah, so Pauline, do you want to, I'll make a note of it and we'll just make sure that it gets onto a Tuesday briefing. That's fine.
To discuss how we
Improve the relationship, sharing of information.
Yep. Absolutely. Thank you. Sarah.
It's clear from a whole pile of the really good work that's gone on that the zone committees and the immediate steps funding, which enables a whole pile of really good work and extra volunteer hours and those kind of things in a range of areas, is really, really useful. But that you could do a whole pile more with more immediate steps funding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did the zone committee specifically submit to ECAN asking for more funding so that they can do more of that kind of work as part of the long-term plan?
We haven't, but I would suggest that they possibly will look at that. But we do also use the City Council biodiversity funding as well.
That's right.
So we do work, I mean, these are combined groups, you know, CCC and ECAN. So we do work very closely together to share that funding and make it go that little extra bit further.
Yeah, because it's not a lot of funding in the scheme of the ECAN and council budgets, if you like. And would it be useful if that's something that we might be able to look at as part of our submission too?
Yes.
Requesting that immediate steps funding.
Yes.
I could perhaps add that Environment Canterbury councillors have signalled that they want to increase how much effort goes into biodiversity, and in our draft long-term plan it sets out sort of some ambitions for increasing the amount of funding going into biodiversity.
Great.
So it might be that there could be some
Maybe we can encourage that as part of ours. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So let's, thanks very much indeed, Pam, for that update on the Banks Peninsula Water Management Zone Committee. Thank you. Now let's move on. So we've got Selwyn, Waihora or Christchurch West Melton. Who's going to go next?
Kia ora, I'm Shelley Washington. I'm actually the acting zone facilitator for this zone committee just to the end of this month. It's usually Leslie Woodberg. Our current chairperson is Arapata Rubin and our deputy chairperson is now Lance Kenyon, but both of them could not make it today. So just make a few points to add on to what you have in front of you. The Zone Committee really enjoyed the field trip that they shared with members of the Community Board and the Canterbury Water Management Strategy back in the end of January. And also, they've been really pleased to be able to contribute $100,000 of immediate steps funding towards the fencing and planting of the Port Hills Fire Restoration Project up in Worsley's Valley and Spur. And yes, that was the entire year's budget. That was in partnership with the landowners, the Christchurch City Council and community groups. The Christchurch West Milton Zone Committee would just also again like to support you with your decision not to cut riverbank vegetation. We know that there have been some downsides to that, but there are also many, many benefits. And the Zone Committee sees that the current methods being used can still be adapted so that it can at the same time meet all the ecological and water quality benefits, at the same time actually be done to look a bit nicer. The committee has 3 new community members. They are Helen Cayley, Gareth Oddie and Carly Slice. Also had a phone call last night from another Zone Committee member, Suzanne Verkert. She just asked me to pass this on, so I said I would. She's requested that she would like, and a number of community groups around the city have been saying for a while, they would like to have one person within the Christchurch City Council who could be a single point of contact, a staff member who might have an overview of all the potential and planned work on rivers in the city that Suzanne can keep in touch with, so they can, she and community groups can sort of be knowing what possibilities are coming up and what opportunities might come up, so that they can feed in some ideas at a stage before, while it can still be taken into account.
And also she's a community watchdog because she's kayaks down there and she's part of a recreation group, so they could feed straight in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just lastly, the Zone Committee members are joining the Christchurch City Council and the Ava Nauticato Network and Environment Canterbury to be stormwater superheroes on Sunday this weekend at the Children's Day, which has a theme of heroes, so it was perfect for the Zone Committee to be stormwater superheroes again. And there will be a large stormwater themed snakes and ladders game for children to play. If it goes well, we might build something more permanent. I also brought along with me a few flyers that we have recently printed that are an update on what people can do at home to reduce their impact on stormwater and therefore help waterways. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to hand them around or...
Yeah, certainly we can make sure that they're passed around councillors. We can just have our staff pass them around councillors, that's no problem. Thank you.
All right, that's all from me.
All right, great. Thanks very much indeed for the update from Christchurch West Melton. Are there any questions on that Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee report? Yanni.
Thank you. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. I just wonder, we've got the the vision, values and vision document for the Apawaho and the Heathcote, but I guess what I'm still not seeing is what's being done to address the worst sites. Is there a kind of action program that you have to address the sites that have really poor water quality? And if so, what is it?
Yes, there is. So the Zone Committee has 4 priority catchments, and 2 of those are in the Heathcote catchment, and one of those is Haytons and one of those is Cashmere. And for example, within Haytons there are particular sites that have been identified as being of the most risk to the health of the Heathcote, because the Haytons is currently the worst sub-catchment in the Heathcote catchment. And so we have a program of work that we work on in conjunction with Christchurch City Council to make.
So how do we add like the Wolfston Industrial Estate, which is equal worst? There's nothing happening there. How do we add it to it?
The water quality data from the Wolfston area is not that it's equally worse. It's there are no consented discharges into the river there anymore. So if there is ever a discharge, it will be unconsented, and then people make a phone call to the pollution hotline. But we haven't had that many.
So I was just going with the overall index that we were given that shows it's the poorest.
That's not what I understand from the water quality reports I've seen from Belinda Margets.
Right. Is it possible maybe just to get some information back about
yeah, absolutely.
some of those things, like, because there's a lot of really good stuff in here, but we don't have a sort of, as I understand, we don't have a Heathcote catchment plan at the moment.
It might be good, Yanni, if you...
Heathcote stormwater management plan.
It's been worked on?
Yeah.
Right.
if you've got questions referring to that specific document, it might be good for you to put those through, you know, in the right level of detail to the zone committee facilitator, and then maybe get a response back.
I just think at a high level in these reports, it would be good just to kind of understand, you know, here's the worst water quality sites, and here's just a snapshot, here's what's being done.
The zone committee receives wonderful information about that, and it always comes from Christchurch City Council's waterway ecologist, Belinda Margetts. So she would be the person that you want to get it from, because she provides the zone committee with wonderful summaries every year of what is the best and worst in every catchment, and it sounds like what you need to hear as well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Dion and then Pauline, and then we'll move on to Selwyn Waihora.
Very quickly about the mowing and the river not mowing thing. Is one of the big benefits there about the spawning of the whitebait?
That's one of the benefits.
So why do we still allow whitebaiting in the rivers?
That may not be a question for the zone committee. The zone committee wouldn't police or enforce whether whitebaiting happens or not.
It's regulated by the Department of Conservation, and I understand that changing that so that people can't whitebait would be possibly something that central government would possibly not be willing to, given the cultural, you know, how much New Zealand people like catching whitebait. But why do we eat the little native fish that
would
suffer,
try
you know,
to protect
mostly
it.
threatened?
There's the dog isn't wagging the tail here.
Well, some are freedom campers and police are looking for something.
All right. Final question from Pauline.
Yeah, and just to tell Dion, there's a paper coming to the Ethical Committee next Wednesday on that particular thing on the mowing and not mowing program.
Very good.
So I'm just looking at point number 3 and talking about Christchurch's groundwater system and the role of the Waimakariri River. And at our last committee meeting, the zone committee, we did have a report that there were, I think, 9 sample bores drilled, and one in the northwest around Belfast has showed nitrate contamination, and it does come under the Waimakariri River. So do you want to tell us what we're doing about that?
Yes. So at last week's Zone Committee meeting, the Zone Committee was briefed on the same science that the Waimakariri Zone Committee was briefed a couple of weeks ago, or earlier before Christmas as well. And what will be happening is the Waimakariri Zone Committee will be working closely with the Christchurch West Mountain Zone Committee in terms of finding solutions through the Waimakariri Zone Committee's process for coming up with an addendum to their zone implementation program and working towards their sub-regional plan. So the Waimakariri Zone Committee is taking it very seriously, and they are welcoming the fact that Christchurch West Mountain Zone Committee wants to work closely with them.
Yeah, it must be iterated that the levels of nitrates are very low volumes, but bearing in mind that there's a 30-year wave of it coming through, it's a huge concern. And the other thing that the ECN policy, I suppose you might say, is that you can find solutions providing they don't have an economic impact, an adverse economic impact, which makes it really challenging. So watch this space, really.
All right, great. Look, thanks very much indeed for those comments, Pauline. We do need to move on because I'm, again, very conscious of time. Let's come to the... So thanks very much indeed for the update from Christchurch West Melton and for the answers to those questions. Now let's move to Selwyn Waihora and some comments on your report, if we can, please.
So I'm Ian Whitehouse. I'm the Selwyn Waihora Zone Facilitator. I'd like to put an apology for Eleanor, who was here but unfortunately did have to go to an appointment that he basically ran out of time in terms of... Yeah,
and again, we apologise for the length of time we kept you waiting today.
I'm going to be very brief. So the first item in Selwyn Waihora, I guess, alerts you to the relatively impromptu visit by the Minister for the Environment. He turned, I understand, I wasn't there, but he turned up in shorts and a cap and proceeded during the day to swim in the Selwyn River. I just want to continue the conversation a little bit about immediate steps funding. At the February meeting, the Zone Committee allocated immediate steps biodiversity funding to a further 3 projects, so they have now allocated all of their $100,000 for 2017-2018. One of those projects is to support the Port Hills fire recovery, however in the Selwyn Waihoura zone. It's in project, actually a wetland project in Otahuna Road, which is in the Hills-Huratini River catchment. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions on Selwyn Waihoura's report?
Why did the Minister not want to swim in Te Waipora?
I've no idea. I was not there. I personally can't talk for other people's choices.
Maybe that's a question for the Minister rather than the Zone Committee. Very good. All right, so we've got, thanks very much indeed for that update as well. And once again to all of you, apologies that we've been running late this morning, and thanks for your patience in waiting to speak to us at this time. So we've got a resolution in front of us to receive the information in the Zone Committee's report, which I'm happy to move. Sarah Templeton's happy to second.
So I just wanted clarity. Is there a Heathcote stormwater catchment management plan being developed? And if so, what's the time frame? And is it on track? Because in 2016 it was announced that it was being done, but I can't see anything that references it.
Okay. Are you able to answer that? Is something... So we'll need to take that offline and come back with an answer. Okay. So the question's been captured. We'll come back to you with an answer. And again, that can be circulated among everybody. It'll be useful information for all of us to have.
Yeah.
All right. So this has now been moved and seconded. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you.